soldiers with the 116th are currently at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, training for the Middle East, doing anything from combat training to training their SUVs and for their new armored vehicles like the ones that you see behind that fence. 20 years ago, 47 states had laws requiring all riders to wear helmets. Today, that number is down to 20. 53-year-old Gerald Dirk Simpson's address is listed right next door to Mocha Madness. Tonight, people will be walking around the track here at Century High School where they'll place these luminaires around the inside of the track, reminding us of a disease that affects us and those we love. Between 2008 and 2009, there was a 19% increase for suicide rates in the Gem State. Now, while that number continues to increase, the amount of money spent on mental health services continues to decrease. Tug-of-war games are nothing new, but pulling a, get this, 164,000-pound Airbus jet is quite a challenge. Pretty rainy day outside, but with rain, there are rainbows. And taking a look at tonight's weather pick, you'll see that we have Tim Hancock from Tyhee sent in this beautiful picture of this rainbow. For months, California's Proposition 8 has fueled debates across the United States. Earlier today, with a lot of severe thunderstorms moving through the area, these produced hail, lightning, some strong and damaging winds earlier today. Yesterday, we introduced you to Dawn Christiansen.
I was the one who had to tell my mom that, you know, someone that she had given birth to, adored, raised, loved, took their life. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
And Jenny Griffin.
The morning that he died was a really awful morning, obviously, for our family. I'm the one that found him.
From telling a mother of her son to being a mother and finding her son, the heartache and pain these two women have dealt with is something most could never imagine.
And you just really struggle with, why didn't I know he needed me?
If I was able to put my grief and the tragedy, turn it into a positive way to deal with my grief by educating others with our story.
These two, along with others around the Gem State, are trying to not only educate others in communities, but also the state government on the importance of mental health care and suicide prevention.
When somebody's at that level, they need, 24-hour care. They need major interventions with trained health professionals. So if the monies go away from that, you're definitely going to see an increase in suicide.
It's not acceptable that we're losing hundreds of people every year to suicide. It's not acceptable in the state of Idaho. It's not acceptable in our communities. And we just need to be doing more.
And even though the Governor's Council in Boise is taking action against suicide prevention, the state continues to chop away mental health care funding. According to senior researcher Ann Kirkwood, these cuts affect people with mental illness, which contributes up to 94% of suicides in Idaho.
When you look at government programs, you say, oh, cut the fat. You can cut the fat. Well, my experience with the mental health system in Idaho is there's no fat, there's not much even on the bones. It is so much of a lean program.
Not just mental health spending, but every area had to see some reductions.
Idaho Senator Mike Crapo says state government running lean programs is common, including with mental health. Idaho currently ranks 47th in the nation for public mental health care spending per capita.
The Idaho legislature and the Idaho governors over the years have run a pretty lean operation. And unlike the federal government, the Idaho government does not pack a lot of fat and excess spending into many of its budgets.
And as the state cuts continue to chip away the budget, recent statistics show the average cost per suicide in Idaho is $1.37 million in lost productivity, which equals more than $417 million last year alone. Now, Christiansen and Griffin say they hope changes will come at the state level in the near future, so others don't have to face the same tragedies both families have faced.
You're supposed to be old people and kind of like at that time like remembering, looking back on a whole life and all that you accomplished, and now that you're broken down old people, it's kind of a gift that you can pass and not be suffering.
There's a lot of things that we missed out with Todd's life, watching him graduate from high school or going on to college, having his own family.
We'll just be ready. Mike Garner and his family watch as the flames from the Rainbow Fire crept closer to their home Sunday afternoon.
it just doesn't take long and the wind changes. We've watched this wind swirl 3 or 4 times and coming at us, and so we just have to be ready.
The fire began Sunday afternoon and quickly expanded to more than 1,000 acres. Local and state agencies had 9 aircraft, 11 fire engines, and a water tender fighting the fire. And as they continue to battle the blaze, Mike's daughter JC and son-in-law Carver, who are former firefighters with the BLM, now watch this fire from a distance.
A lot scarier when it's closer to your own house. Fire never really scared me, but when it's endangering your home, it's a little more scary.
As you can see with this fire, the wind's changing a lot, so it's hard to really get to the active portion of the fire because you're fighting the flames so much.
We're going to stay here and put the fire out. That's why I've got my equipment here. We've got a water truck down there, and we'll get the fire out before we evacuate.
But as aircraft drop retardant on the fire and ground crews spray the flames, the entire family stays optimistic that the flames from the Rainbow Fire won't destroy their home.
When it's your own house, it's more scary, you're more protective, and you want it to get put out.
Summer camp is a common thing for children.
They're so welcoming of each other.
But to this group, Camp Magical Moments means much more than any other camp.
It felt good to talk to other people about what they've been through and what I've been through.
These children currently have or have once had cancer.
It was pretty bad.
Now Mason looks and acts like any other 10-year-old, but after 4 years in the hospital, the emotional scars make telling jokes and laughing with his friends very different than others.
Just need to wait till my birthday, and then I'm cancer free.
And Haley, she had a Wilms tumor, which is cancer on the kidney.
And they said my Wilms tumor was the size of a football, so it was pretty big.
And even though these 33 children aren't in the hospital,
This is why we do camp. Because as the kids tell us, if something ever happens to them, they always want to be remembered.
the camp remembers those who have lost their battle with cancer.
Memory of Abby Thompson. Isaiah Yenter he came to camp our very first year, and he had a brainstem tumor, and he only had 6 months to live. And then Jeremy, we called him J-Dog, and his rock says it all. At camp, he embraced acceptance. It's a very spiritual place, and now with these benches here, it just really brings it home while we do this camp.
The kids are so inspiring and such heroes that you just want to be a part of it.
And to these children, for some, this is a taste of freedom from the disease that controls every moment of their life. And for this week, they get to be like any other kid.
It's like all the fun you could ever have. Like, you can have your friends there at like rock climbing, horseback riding, tell jokes. And there's this one thing called Toes Up where kids who still have cancer sometimes need a rest, because if they don't get rest, then they'll be really tired.
At lunch, we were just talking about like what kind of treatments we went through, and it was really nice.
And even though summer camp is an instrumental part of a child's learning process, the greatest gift of all is the mark these kids leave on those who work the camp.
It changed my life, and it's changed the lives, I think, most of the volunteers who have been here from day one.
It makes me happy, it makes me proud, it makes me empathetic.